From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Colorado's Rocky Mountains have always drawn tourists. But for Black Americans in the 1920s and 30s, segregation and discrimination severely restricted where they could travel and take a vacation. Which is why, in 1922, Lincoln Hills emerged as a mountain resort created by and for African Americans. It sits near Rollinsville, northwest of Denver, and was the largest such resort west of the Mississippi River. It drew visitors from all over the country until the 1960s. And it offered a rare opportunity for Black Americans to feel safe and welcome in the outdoors.
Lincoln Hills was tucked into a valley along the South Boulder Creek. Days were filled with people hiking and fishing. A lot of family reunions happened there.
That's Akoma Gaither, Assistant Curator of Black History at History Colorado in Denver, which unveiled an expanded exhibit about Lincoln Hills last summer. She spoke with me in June ahead of the opening. We're listening back to that conversation today as we mark the start of Colorado's 150th birthday year with stories about Colorado history.
Families could purchase lots for $50 to $100, which seems like a real big steal nowadays.
I'm sure in prices back then it was.
Yes, comparable, yes.
And so would people build cabins on those lots?
Yeah, some families built cabins, some would just pitch tents. And yeah, some people would just come there to relax with other families and kind of get away from the bustle of city life. And I should mention that it wasn't just Black Coloradans that went there. There were Black families from all over the country that came to Lincoln Hills.
Lincoln Hills was created in the early 1920s during the time of segregation, Jim Crow laws, sundown towns. The Ku Klux Klan had a very strong presence in Colorado at that time. How did Lincoln Hills manage to exist kind of outside of that environment?
You know, when we think about segregation, a lot of people think about water fountains or buses and lunch counters, but segregation really extended far beyond the built environment and into nature and in the great outdoors. Colorado, they didn't have formal Jim Crow laws, but they had a lot of discriminatory policies and just plain intimidation for Black families. And recreational spaces like public parks and swimming pools and campgrounds. Through my research, I was able to find meeting minutes from 1922 from NPS Park Superintendent's meeting.
And that's the National Park Service?
National Park Service, yes. Where they said, in quote, "We cannot openly discriminate against African Americans, but they should be told that the parks have no facilities for taking care of them."
Wow.
So this was kind of a sentiment a lot of Black families felt when going to recreate, even in Estes Park. So that's why the need for Lincoln Hills was so, necessary.
Lincoln Hills, as you mentioned, drew people from all over Colorado and all over the country. It also drew visitors that were some prominent African-American writers, activists, musicians like Duke Ellington. I'm curious, were they there to perform or, give talks, or were they just there to relax and, get some fresh mountain air?
Yeah. Through my research and speaking with people, I believe they were there to just relax. A lot of the jazz musicians that came there actually would perform in Denver at different jazz venues like the Rossonian and Five Points.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they would make their way to Lincoln Hills to relax. A lot of Harlem Renaissance writers came, like Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, Countee Cullen, and W.E.B. Du Bois came. And they would actually hold literary salons there during their visits. And oh my gosh, I wish I could have visited during that time.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Now, the new History Colorado exhibit contains photographs and even some outfits that visitors would have worn. I'm wondering, Akoma, what is your favorite artifact in the exhibit and why?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you mentioned the outfits. So I am a huge lover of early to mid 20th century fashion. So putting together these mannequin outfits, it was an absolute joy. I looked through some of the photographs that were taken there, and that was kind of my roadmap to figuring out, what did people wear. So I looked through our collection to find a 1940s ensemble of Western outdoor wear, and that's pretty much one of my favorite things that's on display.
Cool.
And we also have a wool bathing suit that some of the girls at the camp would wear too. That's also on display.
Wow. Was that common to have bathing suits made of wool?
Yes, yes. It seems a
Amazing.
little cold, but
I know. For some Black families in Colorado, owning a property at Lincoln Hills was almost like a family heirloom. What did owning a cabin there represent for Black individuals and families?
yeah, it was a powerful symbol of freedom and pride. This was a time during rampant housing discrimination and redlining.
Mm.
So it was a symbol of legacy for Black families in Colorado. And it also served as a multi-generational space. So you had grandkids there, grandparents there, and really held this rich family history within the cabins. And I've heard from Judge Gary Jackson, who still owns his great grandfather's cabin there,
Mm.
that, it's a little slice of the American dream for his family.
Lincoln Hills sort of petered out as a community in the 1960s. What caused that?
Yeah, so outdoor spaces gradually became more welcoming for Black families through the 60s and 70s. A big reason for that was the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which banned discriminatory laws keeping African Americans from buying homes or enjoying public lands. This brought, a new wave of visitorship for places that were barred for Black families in the past.
Coma, how do you talk about the legacy of Lincoln Hills today?
So the legacy of Lincoln Hills is both a local Coloradan treasure, but also a part of the national story. And I think it really invites us to think about, historically, who has access to leisure and land in the outdoors in America. And it really pushes you to think about equity in the outdoors today. Like, who feels welcome in nature now, and who has access to land and heritage spaces like this one? I think it pushes us to think about a more inclusive outdoor future so everybody can see themselves reflected in Colorado's mountains and open skies and just the surrounding environment.
Akoma Gaither is Assistant Curator of Black History at History Colorado in Denver. She spoke with me last summer about the center's exhibit Lincoln Hills Mountain Sanctuary, which is on display now. We'll have links where you can learn more in our show notes and at KUNC.org. And we'll share another fascinating chapter from Colorado history in tomorrow's show. Be sure to check out our podcast feed to hear the other stories from this week. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.